So there was one thing, the last piece of weird news. I didn't know if you knew this. I didn't know this. Back in 2017, Gatorade was banned and fined $300,000 for bad-mouthing water in a video game.
Toy Story?
Gatorade.
Toy Story?
Welcome to another episode of Use Your Words podcast, where we are not going to be talking about Toy Story, even though that is Aaron's favorite subject in the world, apparently, as we now know, because he doesn't listen when we talk about Gatorade or water or anything else, and he goes Toy Story.
Toy Story?
Exactly. But my name is Paul, and of course, as you heard, Mr. Aaron Johnson has joined us once again, graced us with his presence.
I'm still here, still kicking.
And we're revisiting a topic, essentially. So a while ago, not that long ago, a little while ago, we talked about the whole, idea that, people are freaking out social media that, oh my goodness, Facebook is breaking my First Amendment, right? Blah, 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 right? You remember that when we had that little discussion?
Yeah.
And ultimately I was like, yeah, hey, it's their right to do it. The First Amendment is really, government stepping in and saying, no, you can't say that, or you can't publish that in the newspaper, or you cannot worship the religion that you worship, the creator or deity that you worship. You must worship Fauci instead.
Fauci.
As Aaron saw in the cringe video that I showed him before we started recording of the girl going, let me show you my boyfriend. I'm no longer single. And then she jumps next to a Fauci pillow and goes, and kisses him and goes, the pillow and goes, never leave me. And I'm like, oh boy, this would be a case of something else.
The crazies.
But regardless of that being said, regarding the First Amendment, the United States government, I think, has just kind of jumped and said, yeah, we're just going to bypass that thing completely. Who cares about that? We don't have to worry about it. Why should you worry about it? And a lot of this has come to light recently with a couple things. The first one being specifically that the White House, through the wonderful Jen Psaki, the wonderful red-haired queen that we should all aspire to be, as Aaron's drinking his drink.
You're lucky I didn't start choking on that.
As she revealed, so we're recording this week, we're recording this on Saturday, July 17th, and she said earlier this week, hey, you know what? Yes, we've been flagging posts for Facebook to take care of.
So...
And then the next day she was asked about it. And of course, well, yeah.
The effort.
And then speaking of misinformation and the announcement from yesterday, for how long has the administration been spying on people's Facebook profiles looking for vaccine misinformation?
Well, that was quite a loaded and inaccurate question, which I would refute.
How?
Well, Peter, first of all, as you know, we're in a regular touch with a range of media outlets.
And we expect the White House to watch
let me
you
finish.
watch, but
As we are in regular touch with social media platforms. This is publicly open information. People sharing information online, just as you are all reporting information on your news stations.
But okay, so these 12 people who you have on a list, 12 individuals. Do they know that somebody at the Surgeon General's office is going through their profile?
I'm happy to get you the citation of where that comes from. There's no secret list. I will tell you that these are people who are sharing information on public platforms on Facebook, information that is traveling, is inaccurate. Our biggest concern here, and I frankly think it should be your biggest concern, is the number of people who are dying around the country because they're getting misinformation that is leading them to not take a vaccine.
But
young people, old people, kids, children, this is all a lot of them are being impacted by misinformation.
The big concern, though, I think, for a lot of people on Facebook is that now this is Big Brother watching you.
They're more concerned about that than people dying across the country because of a pandemic where misinformation is traveling on social media platforms. That feels unlikely to me. If you have the data to back that up, I'm happy to discuss it.
About things that are on Facebook, I looked this morning. There are videos of Dr. Fauci from 2020 before anybody had a vaccine, and he is out there saying there's no reason to be walking around with a mask. So is the administration going to contact Facebook and ask them to take that down?
Well, first, I think what Dr. Fauci has said himself, who's been quite public out there, is that science evolves, information evolves, and we make that available in a public way to the American people.
Exactly.
I have never seen any data to suggest that that the vaccines cause infertility. That is information that is irresponsibly traveling. Okay.
Just one more. Sorry, excuse me. Just one more. Okay. About the science evolving. Facebook used to block people from posting that COVID may have originated for a lab. That is something this president now admits is a possibility. So, is there any concern that things you're trying to block or have taken down might someday turn out to be?
We don't take anything down. We don't block anything. Facebook and any private sector company makes decisions about what information should be on their platform. Our point is that there is information that is leading to people not taking the vaccine, and people are dying as a result. And we have a responsibility as a public health matter to raise that issue. And the responsibility we all have, the government, media, platforms, public messengers, to give accurate information. Go ahead.
Geez, that's loaded with stuff.
So yeah, that is loaded with stuff. So there's a couple things that stood out to me with this whole thing, and we'll get into that in a second here. But this is right on the coattails of it coming out. It was either late last week or earlier this week, where the White House wants text message carriers, SMS, text messaging that you do on your phone, where they want the carriers to block misleading information or misinformation or disinformation, depending on which article you read. So we're not talking just, oh yeah, hey, little granny over there posts something that they don't like. It's, on Facebook, and then they flag it, and then they tell Facebook, hey, you need to take this down. It's now, hey, phone carriers, we need you to control what information goes out. This is what is starting to break down that First Amendment protection. This, honestly, I think should be called out even more as illegal.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. I was like, how are they getting away
with this?
Yet they do, and it's only going to get worse.
Well, as far as like looking at people's accounts on Facebook, because is there a setting on there where you can make your account private and what you post private versus public?
Yes, that's assuming that Facebook is honoring that when they give government access to things.
See, that's a load of crap.
See, it's no longer the fact that we're having a private company, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, applying their rules in that. It's they're doing it in conjunction with government.
Yeah.
So from this article, the White House is planning to work with major communication channels, including traditional and social media empires. They hope to work with cell phone carriers to screen misleading claims about vaccines and help spread the stop of such messages. The White House could ask carriers like T-Mobile, Verizon, AT&T to step in and stop the spread of those text messages. They want to do this to get more people vaccinated. So that's something that they're planning to do. And here's the thing. Every restriction, everything is bad and evil always starts out with good. We're doing this for your protection. We're doing this for your good. We're doing this for the good of the public, for the good of everyone. We're stopping you from sending false information on this one thing right over here, just this one thing. And then a month later or a year later, it turns into, oh yeah, you're speaking bad about Biden. How dare you speak ill of the Emperor God King? Don't you dare do that. We're going to block that text message from going out. we're going to block that text message from, obviously I'm being a little facetious in that regard, but everything evil, everything damaging always starts as we're doing it for your good.
Yeah. Well, the other thing, where it's like, if you even act like you're concerned about the government overstepping its bounds, how she draws it's like, oh, well, if you care more about your government overstepping your bounds than people dying. And they're just trying to paint this bad picture on you. Like, oh, you don't care about people. You just care about what the government sees on you or what you're saying.
Yeah, she was like, she's like, I don't believe that people are concerned about the government overreach and overstep, and they're more concerned about people dying. Show me the data if you have it. Okay, fine. Here's one right here. I'm more concerned about that.
That makes me too.
Okay. And here's my reasoning for this. In the short term, COVID may cause more deaths.
Yeah.
I'm not going to belittle and say, oh, COVID's not going to kill you. No, COVID could potentially kill you, okay?
Anything can kill you.
Yeah, but COVID could definitely kill you. There might
higher risk.
Might be more COVID deaths in the short term.
Yeah.
However, in the long term, if the government has this nice little backdoor entry into a private company, and here's where I think it's tricky and where she kind of played some words around. Okay. She goes, we're not going in and blocking. Facebook is the one blocking. Facebook is the one blocking. Twitter's the one blocking.
Oh, that was the other thing.
But
it's like they're flagging what they would like to be taken down.
They're flagging it for Facebook and Twitter.
Facebook is the one that's like, well, okay, we're going to take it down.
Yeah, because...
So they're the one doing the dirty work, but it's the government that's like, hey, you should take this down.
Yeah, because...
Facebook is just the one that's making it actually happen.
Yeah,
or Twitter.
Because here's the thing. Okay, Aaron, you own a successful business. Okay? Wow. You're the owner of Facebook. Okay? I'm just giving you an example, right? You're the owner of Facebook. You're headquartered inside the United States. The government comes to you and says, we would like you to do something for us.
Oh.
Obviously, they're not going to be like,
they're not
going to be
so,
hint, hint.
Yeah.
It's going to be like, we would like you to help us stop the spread of misinformation, Mr. Johnson. Will you do this for your country?
For the country.
You know,
it would be an honor to serve my country.
Obviously, we're being a little facetious here with this.
Yeah.
But, it's because it aligns great with their goals.
Right.
They're like, oh, we don't want COVID misinformation being spread. Of course we'll do what you would like. We have that going on. And it seems worse than it is. It actually is kind of worse even. Because now we're not having Facebook saying, hey, this post violates our standards, our rules, our guidelines. We're going to take it down.
Right.
So that's one thing. Now it's the government saying, yeah, hey, Aaron posted something over there. We don't like what he talked about the vaccine. So, hey, Facebook, take that down. Just take it down. And she's like, oh, they're not a secret list. We'll provide you with all the information. Still, why is it the government's role or job to go through anyone's social media accounts? Private or not? Public or not? Agree with them or not? Because here's the second point. And she goes, well, as Fauci has said, the science on COVID is an ever-evolving science. It's always changing. Again, the reporter pointed out, last year Fauci said, oh, there's no reason to go around wearing a mask. And obviously we have learned since then that Fauci intentionally lied to us to not have us go out and make a big run on masks. He wanted to try to preserve that PPE for, like medical professionals and that. That was his goal. He kind of admitted that. He let that slip in an interview. He said the quiet part out loud, as they say.
Yeah.
And then, so it's like, oh yeah, that's an ever-evolving science. Well, that ever-evolving science was not science-based. It was purely, I don't know what. It wasn't personal. It wasn't religious. It wasn't, I don't know what it would have been. It was a Fauci. It was a Fauci. I'm going to say that from now on. Whenever someone says lies to me, I'm going to go, oh, did you just Fauci me?
Did you just Fauci? Did you just Fauci me? Why would you do that?
It's not cool. Don't Fauci.
Don't Fauci, man.
I don't believe you. You Fauci'd.
I like that more than the whole no cap. That, like, my nephew says, he's like, no cap. When he says like some statement, I'm like, what? So that means no lie. I'm like, when did no cap mean lie? Yeah, I know it's making crinkling noise.
Yeah.
When did, like,
I've never heard of no cap.
really? Oh, okay. Well, man, it's that younger generation, dude.
I haven't even heard it from the youth group kids.
Oh, good. Well, I guess I wouldn't know. But what was it? Because whenever I'd hear the word cap, normally is you're getting capped, which means you're getting shot or something. But anywho,
So
I like don't Fauci me.
According to Urban Dictionary, no cap means you're not lying.
No cap means you're not lying.
Yeah.
Yeah. No cap, man. No cap. So stupid.
It's a TikTok phrase.
That's why it's stupid.
So yeah, I'm just gonna say, you Fauci'd me now when someone lies to me, and we'll do that because I'm not saying no cap. I'm sorry.
No cap. It's kind of stupid.
Yeah. So apparently, as of the writing of this article here, no cap videos tagged no cap in TikTok have amassed over 727 million views on TikTok.
Wow. That's a lot.
Have fun with that. I'm just like, nope, not going to happen. I'm just going to say Fauci'd. But that comes back to, again, like I said, this ever-evolving science that keeps changing. And he makes a good point. Hey, if you're taking down information, and if the information and what is considered true is always changing, to be fair, in a pandemic when we're learning things still, that's going to be a true statement. Things are changing. What we know 1 month is going to change, not what we know the next month. Okay.
Yes.
So that's why he asked, like, hey, at the start of this, when we said, hey, maybe this came from China, and all of a sudden everything was blocked, saying, no, it's not coming from China. Then now, oh, maybe it really is coming from China. And now it's all allowed.
There's something wrong with that.
That happens. But at the same time, let's say we go in the future again to, oh, it didn't come from China. Guess what? All that stuff is going to be blocked again.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why he asked. He's like, well, Fauci at the start was saying no mask, regardless of why he said it. Lie or not lie. A Fauci or not a Fauci. Why is that still being allowed up and not being removed? Because now it is being like, hey, no, we generally consensus say mask up, mask will do whatever. Where you believe it or not, that's what the CDC, Fauci, WHO, all that are saying. Like, hey, mask up, blah, blah, blah. So why isn't this old one being taken down? Okay. So they're having that conversation. And I don't know if you noticed at one point in there what Psaki did. She did a deflection, an expert deflection where she changed the topic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Did you notice that?
Maybe, but I don't. Maybe not. Maybe not if it didn't stand out that much to me.
Okay, so she's going down and she's talking about Fauci. She's like da 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 da. So here, let me bring this up because remember the science evolves,
and we make that available in a public way to the American people.
Exactly.
I have never seen any data to suggest that the vaccines cause infertility. That is information that is irresponsibly traveling. Okay.
Just one more. Sorry, excuse me. Just one more. Okay.
So we're going on about Fauci and how he had in the past said stuff that isn't true now and all that, and why it's still allowed up.
And then
I have never seen any data about vaccines causing infertility. Next, just a straight up professional deflection. That is her job, to be honest. But the thing that concerns me, like I said, is the fact that she's like, well, why would you be concerned about the government going through your stuff? And then telling, hey, Facebook, no, don't don't be allowing this on this.
don't do your job and don't let this stuff be seen.
So I was just like,
don't make us twist your arm about it.
I was just like, you got to be kidding me. So, and she has, here, I think this one, is also a good one because this kind of gets a little bit to the heart of the action. This one was like the day before that previous video.
In terms of actions, Alex, that we have taken, or we're working to take, I should say, from the federal government, we've increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. We're working with doctors and medical professionals to connect to connected medical experts who are popular with their audiences with accurate information and boost trusted content. So we're helping get trusted content out there. We also created the COVID Community Corps to get factual information into the hands of local messengers. And we're also investing, as you all have seen, in the president's, the vice president's, and Dr. Fauci's time.
So there are a couple things there. Notice she said we're flagging for Facebook. We're getting information out to essentially influencers to get them to give everyone the correct information, aka our information.
Yeah.
And we're creating the COVID Corps to, spread out the word of Fauci far and wide for all to hear. May all praise the name of Fauci. In Fauci we trust. All praise the Fauci.
Oh, no.
So you have that going on, right? It's just craziness going on. And honestly, with all this, I think that finally steps over that First Amendment protection where the government should not be trending. Can the government say, hey, here are the facts that we would like? Yeah, okay, cool. But as soon as they start going, hey, Facebook, these are the posts that we're flagging about disinformation that we no longer want to see, that's when...
I feel like that makes me trust the government even less.
Yeah, and you wonder why right now there are people who are willing to saying, hey, maybe we should split up the country.
Yeah.
Support for balkanization. And I wish I didn't ask Aaron if he knew what this meant earlier in the day.
Because I didn't.
But support for balkanization in the United States is about 33%. It's actually surprising the number of independents and Republicans who are more in favor of balkanization. So what they found is in total, about 29% of Americans are in favor of dissolution of the United States into like-minded regions. 37% of independents were inclined to go this way. 35% of Republicans and 21% Democrats want to go this way. And stuff like this, where the government's saying, hey, we want to control the narrative. We want to control what the people see. I don't know. You've probably never seen this movie, Wag the Dog.
Mm-mm.
So it's a movie about a politician, president, needing to get reelected. So they literally create a fake war. And the war is only seen through the media, like the news. There's news reports about like, oh, this attack, this happening, all to make the president look good to get him reelected. All fake information, all controlling the information, lying to the public, manipulating the public, adjusting the public to get what they want in the government. And at that time, it was like, oh, no way would this ever be reality. It was more like what would happen in a far-fetched world where politicians were corrupt and the media got behind them and the media didn't hold their feet to the fire. Hello, we're there.
It's happening.
We're there nowadays, and
Yeah. I don't know. I just there's the whole balkanization stuff. Yeah. I don't know. I can see the good of it, and then I also see the bad of it, I suppose. I mean, there's going to be good and bad with any kind of situation, or any decision you make, I suppose, with something. But it's like it is just a divided nation, anyways.
We're very divided right now.
It's
I was listening
bad.
to a Tim Pool episode recently, and he goes, "It's like we have an invading force here in America, because what are they doing now with NFL this fall?
I don't know.
They're going to play a different anthem before the national anthem."
What? They are?
Yeah. The NFL will play the Black national anthem before the national anthem before every game in 2021.
Doesn't that cause more division? You would think. It's like you're singling out a group of people. When the national anthem is just for anybody and everybody, but now having this Black national anthem is like, oh, this is only for them because they're extra special.
Oh, we'll see. We'll see how this plays out, because it's going to be interesting to watch, because this is essentially saying we have two anthems, we have two countries here in the United States.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing when you go to the Olympics, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you have the top three finishers, and, you know, they play the national anthem and show the flags of the winners. That's one thing. You know, if we were hosting the Olympics and, you know, Zimbabwe won something, we played the Zimbabwe national anthem because they won. That's one thing.
Yeah.
Because this is an international competition.
Yep.
The NFL is a purely
American thing.
It's a purely American thing for profit.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happens with it, you know. And I'm going to be very interested to see if someone kneels during the Black national anthem, what's going to happen to them.
Ooh.
But
I didn't think of that. I was just thinking if people stopped watching NFL.
Well, that's going to probably happen too, you'd imagine.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, that's neither here nor there. That's just a random musing in my head, you know, with the balkanization. We're already splitting up.
Yeah.
And then having the government saying, well, this information is permissible, this information isn't permissible, this information is permissible. I look at them like, and we're different from Cuba. How?
Right.
You know, Cuba, communist country, essentially they control the narrative of what is allowed to be seen, what isn't allowed to be seen publicly and externally. You know, same thing with North Korea. You know, very much you go there, it's very much controlled what can be seen to the outsiders, what can't be seen. You know, they don't allow you to take photos and let those out. They have to be approved by the regime. You know, why are we happy with that? That the government is saying, hey, Aaron, what you posted on Facebook is allowable. Josh, what you post on Facebook is not allowable.
Sucker.
And I hope someone takes them to task over this.
Yeah, that's not okay.
If, you know, that's one of those things of like, if I had enough money to fund a legal thing, I'd be like, hey, let's see if there's a way we could take them to task over this legally. Because they shouldn't be doing that.
How much do you need? Probably a ton.
A ton. Yeah.
Of money.
I don't have enough money for that. But it's still, it's like, why would I allow that?
Yeah.
And again, this then goes into that whole, why should I trust on anything? Have you ever seen the movie V for Vendetta?
That is one I have seen.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the premise of V for Vendetta?
Honestly, I don't remember. I saw it was at Josh's house with a buddy of ours that loved that movie, and I remember seeing most of it, but I was kind of in and out at parts. So I don't actually know. I just know I've seen it time. Sort of.
Okay. Well,
all I know is this guy fights people.
Wow.
And he's got a mask on, and he's got a swords and stuff, I think, right?
Wow.
He's like Zorro.
you
How badly did I butcher that? I'm gonna imagine
my brain just blew a little bit.
Oh no. Explain to me what's going on in V for Vendetta. But doesn't he have like a mask on?
Yes, he does.
And he uses a sword, right?
Yes,
he
but that's not.
fights people.
Oh boy. Okay. Oh.
All right.
Okay.
I'm looking at images of it. That dude, yeah. That's
So he's
right.
in a Guy Fawkes mask, right?
Yeah.
So it takes place in a dystopian world where the United States is fractured after a second civil war, which we may be headed to anyways.
Right.
And there's a pandemic, the St. Mary's virus, that's ravaging Europe. And, you know, when COVID came out, people were like, oh, how convenient and how similar to a movie we've already seen, da, 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 right? And what it comes down to is that eventually it's essentially a movie like, hey, the government's lying to you.
Yeah.
You know, the
Okay.
government's controlling you by making you live in fear about things going on. This virus is, I'm not saying COVID's fake. So go away.
Oh, yeah.
Go away, whatever your YouTube name is. Wachiski or Wajiski or Wawaziski or whatever. But essentially they created the virus to try to control the population. Not like control them like the numbers, but control the population of like keeping them in
On what
fear,
they
to keep them
do.
compliant and all that sort of stuff. You know, so people have made some comparisons of like, hey, this is kind of what this is like nowadays. You know, and obviously, like, they're critical in the movie of like totalitarianism. They're critical of religion and not, because in that universe, the church is deeply integrated with the state and sort of deal. You know, it's sort of like what we talked about before, where I don't like the idea of the church and the state fully intermingled. I agree with the
Some
separation there. You know, but it's like, yay. It kind of, how do you take years worth of comics and books and put it into a movie? It's hard to do. You know, you can't
Smash
you can't smash everything together all at once, right? But it brings on a little bit of like, hey, you don't necessarily have to trust the government fully. And actually, it's always good to have a little bit of that skepticism. You know, I'm not saying, hey, everyone listening to this, go to your state cap. No, I'm not saying anything like that. You know, we've had some weird things going on recently. I'm not calling for violence or anything like that, but I'm saying be vigilant about what is going on. Research data for yourself. Just because you see something posted somewhere, either on a news site or Facebook or Twitter or from a government official, do not take it at face value. You are responsible for validating and ensuring that the data that you're looking at is actually valid. Cross-reference it with multiple sources. Make sure the source you're looking at is credible, and if possible, that source is neutral. Check to see if you're only seeing one message. If you're only seeing one message somewhere, you're in an echo chamber. If you're in an echo chamber, that means you're not getting both sides of the discussion. And you're not having a discussion. You're being spoon-fed something to make you think something one way. And that's going to happen from private companies, which they are allowed to do if it's their platform. They're allowed to do that. But it's when it's the government coming and saying, we don't block, we tell them what to block, that I have an issue with that. And the thing is, I was listening, again, another Tim Pool thing. And essentially they said, without the First Amendment, there's no reason to have the Second. So essentially, if there's no freedom of speech, there's no reason for people to be able to, you know, have guns, to be able to defend their freedom of speech. They're kind of interlinked that way. And I heard that and I thought about that. I was like, yeah, that's true. Especially now, right now, you have very much in all levels of the government, especially White House and that, where like, oh, we want to get rid of firearms.
Yeah.
And they don't say all firearms. They say
assault
weapons. And then you ask someone, what is an assault weapon? Meaning no one can define that because there's no proper definition of that and blah, 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 blah.
Anything that looks scary, which technically any gun should be scary to you.
Who was it? Someone created the Lego case for the gun. It's like $500 and it's made out of Legos and it looks like a Lego gun.
That's scary.
And they're like, oh no, kids are going to kill themselves. Teach gun safety to your kids.
Yeah.
Where you have a gun or not.
Oh, right.
And that will be, you'll work that out. But
You'll
regardless
thank
of that.
yourself later for that.
Yeah. But what I was getting at is, and I like that person's statement that if we don't have the First Amendment, if we don't have freedom of speech, if we don't have government not controlling speech, if we have government controlling speech, in our words, why would we care if we had a Second Amendment or not?
I mean, I would still care, but...
Well, but at that point, you're already letting yourself be manipulated, controlled by other forces.
I guess it is mainly to be against the government, isn't it?
Well, Biden says, unless you have F-15s and nukes, you're not going to be against the government. Don't you remember that statement he made?
Wait a minute. Maybe not. Well, because I thought like to be able to have the Second Amendment is to be able to defend yourself against a tyrannical.
Yeah, but
government.
Here, let me pull this up here. This is from the BBC.
Okay.
If rogue gun dealers feel like they can get away with selling guns to people who aren't legally allowed to own them. And I might add, the Second Amendment from the day it was passed limited the type of people who could own a gun and what type of weapon you could own. You couldn't buy a cannon. Those who say the blood of patriots, and all this stuff about how we're going to have to move against the government. Well, the tree of liberty is not water with the blood of patriots. What's happened is that there never been, if you wanted to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons. The point is that there's always been the ability to rationally limit the type of weapon that can be owned and who can own it.
So, first off, a couple of lies in there. The original Second Amendment, no, you could buy cannons. You could buy cannons easily. So that's a lie.
Oh my gosh.
And the original Second Amendment did not limit who could either. That's laws that we've added on top of it that he then believes that are really.
Have always been there from the beginning.
Yeah. And the word salad in there just was like.
So that is a big issue if our own current president doesn't even know the history of that.
Well, to be fair, that's also a lot of people on the more democratic left side of the aisle also believe that.
Oh, I'm sure of it. But then what is their history? Like, what's the truth to their history?
We're not even going to get into relativism and truth right now. Don't want to get there. But okay. I did find this statement. I did find this statement by Biden interesting. Well, the tree of liberty is not watered by the blood of patriots.
The tree of patriotism is not
the tree of liberty is not watered by the blood of patriots.
Okay.
Then what is it watered by, Mr. President?
Water.
Who knows? Because after that, he stumbled around. But yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, sure, okay. And obviously some people really politicize that. Tim Pool, again, he kind of politicizes. He's like, Biden threatens to nuke Americans. I was like, he didn't say that.
No,
I know you're doing this for clicks and likes on your YouTube, but no, he didn't say that. Let's be honest with what he said.
we would need nukes and whatever's to fight back at the government.
Yeah, which
none of us have, as far as I know.
nope. So and I don't think you really would need that, because
No.
you'd be able to take on with the militia if you had to.
So you could
I'm not
run-
saying I'm going to or planning to. Or,
Right. So you could most likely round up enough people to cause an issue for them, for sure.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
But, if you share that in social media, that thought, it's going to be fact-checked false by the United States government. Said, no, Aaron, you cannot do that.
What?
You cannot get enough people to do that.
Wow.
And they'll be like,
Tell me
Facebook,
why.
please remove this.
Tell me why then.
No,
No?
that's the thing.
Because you can't answer. You can't tell me that can't happen.
Oh, I can.
Well, I know. Wait. What can happen? Wait, now what are you saying can happen? Are you saying the militia can happen, or that they can take that down?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because I agree with both of them. You could do both.
Yep.
You can take it down, but you can't prove that I can't get a militia.
So it'll be interesting
But
to
I'm
watch.
not going to.
It'll be interesting to watch, because as the government now is getting into the role of being the arbiters of truth, how is that going to manipulate? I say manipulate, but how's it going to change how people see things? And will people notice is the question. Because if people don't notice these things, it's just going to continue on getting worse and worse and worse. And the thing is, you have people that go, well, we need to be locked down. We need the government to control what we see. We need the government to arbitrate the truth. Then you have other people going, no, we need the actual truth, not the truth that you want, because it's convenient.
Oh man, that was one thing I heard at work, I think for the first time ever in my life, was like, for history, it's like, history is only, like, the only history that we learn is the history written by the winners.
Oh, I've heard that for a long time.
Like, what? That was the first time I've ever heard that statement. I was like, interesting.
Yeah. You hear that one quite a bit. And to be fair,
So to a point, I'm sure it's true.
yeah, so to be fair, to a point, it is true. There's some things that I wouldn't agree with on that. The other thing
Yeah.
that Psaki has said recently that just drove me. I love how you're like, is
Yeah.
this.
Providing for Facebook or other platforms to measure and publicly share the impact of misinformation on their platform and the audience it's reaching. Also with the public, with all of you, to create robust enforcement strategies that bridge their properties and provide transparency about rules. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others if you for providing misinformation out there.
So, in other words,
if you're for providing misinformation.
yeah, so it started looping, that's why. So, in other words, the key statement there that I think is you shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others if you for providing misinformation out there. So, yeah, I know.
So what if, I mean, then technically, should the government or Fauci not be banned from social media?
But Fauci is infallible, and Fauci we trust.
Because he's always
Fauci.
evolving. He's always finding out what the actual truth is, and then he'll post it.
All hail the holy Fauci. Never not trust the Fauci.
But man,
But yeah, so the official stance from, and again, it is from Psaki, but it's speaking on behalf of White House, on whitehouse.gov, is if you shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others. So, Aaron, you make a mistake.
I can't just get kicked off of one. I get kicked off of everything.
Yeah. Again,
I guess I don't want to be a part of it.
This is them controlling the narrative even more. The government controlling the narrative in Great Britain. In Great Britain, they recently signed a petition for Parliament to look at a law that in order for you to sign up for social media, you have to provide your state/government issued IDs. Okay? Here's the thing. And I don't think we see this here in the United States, in the West, especially for people who grew up pretty, let's be honest, pretty privileged.
Absolutely.
We don't see that freedom is complicated and hard, and it's a process to think through. Again, I keep going back to Timcast because I was watching some, but anyways, he had on as a guest someone who escaped from North Korea. So she went to North Korea, to China, sold essentially like as a slave essentially for a little bit until she escaped from there. Eventually she made it over here to the United States, right? But one of the comments that she said that was interesting was that if she had been given food, she would go back to North Korea in a heartbeat at one point, because freedom was complicated. Freedom was hard. Freedom means making choices and thinking for yourself. And she goes, I don't like that. She grew up where she was told what to think, what to do, what to believe. And all of a sudden she has her own mind where she can go, wait, I can question these things. And she found it hard. She found it difficult. She found it frustrating. And she said, if I had food, I would go back there. It's a much simpler life.
Just being told what to do.
Exactly. And here in the United States, we grew up very
free,
very fortunate, very, let's be honest, wealthy compared to the rest of the world. And we're like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, that's great. And we just kind of look around. We go, yeah, government, tell me what to do. I don't want to think for myself. And we're not understanding the complications and all that result from that. And that's dangerous. That's scary. Because a lot of people younger than me are going, let's bring communism here in the United States. Let's bring socialism here. And they're like, yes. And you see that, again, if you haven't, go to Libs of TikTok Twitter account, because there's some cringe on there. One that I did not show Aaron, I showed Aaron a couple of the cringes, was a guy answering a question, a prompt on TikTok saying, why is communism considered bad? Please educate me. And he's talking about like, well, communism has never been done properly. If we were doing pure communism, blah, 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 blah. Like, go away.
Shut up and leave.
One of the stars from Stranger Things, he was also on Black Widow, the movie Black Widow. He's a devout socialist. Oh. And he's like, well, that Starbucks barista owns the coffee because she made the coffee. I'm like, do you not get that the beans came from somewhere else? The machine came from somewhere else? Just because they made the coffee does not make the coffee theirs. They're hearing these platitudes espoused to them about the workers owning the business, the workers owning the profit.
We're employee owned.
We're employee owned is completely different than socialism. We're employee owned is a great thing.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just thinking of Woodman's.
Yeah, and that's a great. It is a great way. It is. But yeah, so yeah, if you like, see here, Stranger Things. It's so. The guy's name is David Harbour. He's in Stranger Things, The Black Widow. He says, no one could disagree with socialism in a July 3rd interview with The Guardian. And I was just like, no one can disagree with socialism, huh? Interesting. And if you haven't seen him, he has across his knuckles tattooed Karl and Marx.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah. I don't know that there's anyone who could disagree with socialist ideology, said Harbour. If you work at Starbucks and make the coffee, then you should own it. You're the one making the coffee. But the fact is that the implementation of these things has led to some of the deepest fascism in our society. So people assume that communism means fascism to a certain degree. That's a terrible thing. So, yeah. And I find it funny coming from a Hollywood star who's making, $350,000 per episode for Stranger Things.
It's a lot of money.
Him and his wife have an estimated net worth of $20 million. And he's making these remarks as the citizens of Cuba are protesting a communist regime down in Cuba. Because this was right around when stuff was starting to happen. And it's funny, okay? These protesters down in Cuba, what flag are they waving?
Ours.
The American flag. The protesters in Hong Kong, what are they waving?
Probably, ours.
Yeah. And what are we waving here in the United States?
Well, I would say ours, but they're on fire.
They're either burning the flag,
Yep.
waving the BLM flag, or waving some form of another social justice. Social justice flag, let me put it that way.
What we should do is get the people from Hong Kong and the people from Cuba that are waving our flag to come here, and the people that are waving the other flags that would want communism and stuff, just send them off, send them away, and then see how long it lasts, I guess.
How dare you take away their iPhones and their right to protest?
You can keep your iPhones. You can do whatever you want. You'll just have different, oh wow, what's the word for it? So you're saying, like, how dare I take away, like, because you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You just might have a certain, whatever that word is.
Consequences?
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely the one.
See, what a lot of people don't realize is that in the United States, we have a lot of protections. First Amendment comes to mind.
Yeah.
Where... Sorry, I just saw an article pop up and it made me stop for a second. It was from Fauci.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Fauci, U.S. might still have polio if media back then opposed vaccine. Here's the problem then. The media nowadays is all like, yes, get the vaccine. It's, individuals who are saying, hey, there might be issues. So Fauci's article just dies in a fire. But anyways, we have the First Amendment here in the United States where we have the protected right to protest. We have the protected right to speak out. We have the protected right to disagree and not be thrown in jail, not be shot, not be killed, not be put into internment camps, not be put into forced labor. That guarantee is not anywhere else in the world. And that's what frustrates me, because all these people going, I'm going to burn the American flag, we. And then they go, how dare you say that there might be consequences? These are children that have never been told no in their lives.
Yeah.
And if we were to put these same people down in Cuba,
they wouldn't
over
last.
in Hong Kong, over in Taiwan,
Nope.
They would cry that how dare the government oppress their ability to do X, Y, Z, when they don't even realize that how good they have it here. Which is why it frustrates me and makes me scared that the government is trampling on the First Amendment rights by manipulating what and how people think.
Yeah. That is very frightening.
Because if we don't have that essential liberty, if we don't have that freedom of speech, that freedom of thought, that freedom of religion, that freedom to associate, that freedom from government control of media manipulation and words and thoughts, if we don't have that freedom, the rest of what we have in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, is moot. Because if we don't have that freedom, then the whole concept of America being the land of the free
is nothing.
It's gone. Instead, it's the land of those who can control the government.
Right.
It's the land of those who can control the media. It's the land of those who have enough money and enough influence and enough power and enough of everything to be the ones in control, to be the ones that say, hey, guess what? We want to make happen now.
It's the land of the powerful.
And I'm tired of it. And I'm tired of the fact that this sounds like I'm complaining, but I'm just tired of it. Where if you disagree with the zeitgeist of the day, everything of yours is on the line.
Right.
You know, I there was a little kerfuffle. I say kerfuffle, just whatever. For people who pay attention, kerfuffle on Twitter a couple weeks ago. Tim Pool. Why does Tim Pool keep coming up? He was getting all upset, but because people were posting stuff on Twitter without, like their full name and their whatchamacallit, their profile picture on it. You know, and they're just Twitter eggs, essentially. And he's like, well, I never engaged in discourse with a Twitter egg, blah, 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 blah. And people are, some people are reading it as like, oh, you should never have a Twitter egg, get upset, blowing it out of water, whatever way. But he did admit, hey, maybe he thought about it wrong later on one of his episodes. And he said, I get it. He's like, I don't have kids. He's like, I have my own business. I'm not employed. I don't have to worry that if I say something that goes against the popular opinion of the government or of the country or of my neighbors, that I may be unemployed and on the streets the next week.
Jeez.
It's bad enough when the Twitter mobs and the online mobs, bombard a business and say, how dare you employ this person because they have this opinion. It's a whole other thing when the government says, we don't like what they're saying. You need to remove this from social media or censor them or whatever.
Yeah.
It would be one thing if it's illegal speech. Like illegal speech, there are definitions of what illegal speech is. It's a very narrow definition, but there are definitions, such as a call for violence.
Right.
If you were to say, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to get in trouble, but like if you were to make a call for storming the Capitol, if you're like, let's do this, blah, 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 that technically is illegal speech. Would you want to be like, yes, freedom of speech everywhere? I get it. Yes. There are some things like if you're calling for someone's assassination, probably should not be allowed. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you have a hot take and a spicy opinion on something, should that be what gets the government's attention? Because they go, oh, nope, they're full of misinformation and we can allow them to continue doing what they do online. Because here's the thing. Let's say, Mr. Johnson, you were Tim Pool.
Oh.
You were running your own business, right? Psaki had her way. You said something she didn't like and Biden didn't like. And you get then banned from all social media platforms. Does that then mean that you should be banned from all web hosting platforms as well? That's a dangerous rabbit hole that then starts happening.
Right.
Because what if you're banned from Facebook and Twitter, right? And these services are built on top of other platforms. And those other platforms say, well, if you're banned on something that we host, we're going to ban you from using our services, period. We start going down this rabbit hole. And once I see how easy it is, I guarantee you, rest assured, it will easily be abused. We see that. The internet has made people less hospitable. Has made them more angry. Has made them more divisive. And when the government's able to come in and say, hey, we like you, you stay out. They're playing favorites.
They're making their own little club.
And that's dangerous.